Welcome back to the best hour of the week, the firing line where my wonderful and taming the lion, Dr. Bill. Wonderful.
I used to be beautiful. Now
you're beautiful. You're wonderful and beautiful.
Oh, that's better.
And of course, you have a very large sheaf of questions to put me on the firing line today, yes, which hopefully I'll be able to answer. So it'll either look really good or really bad, but we'll see what happens.
That's the mystery.
It's a mystery, and we have some announcements to make.
We do. I know you're dying to do it yourself.
No, I want you to do it.
It's my turn.
You're the host with the
Hello,
most.
everybody. This is August the 8th, and we're coming to you live from Vista, California. Beautiful Vista, California. And I guess the big thing, it's not that fun to talk about, is Ebola, which Missy has put together a nice protocol for everyone. Bill, if you could bring that up for me on the front page.
Uh-huh.
Under featured products on the front page of Nutrimedical, we have a protocol for Ebola, and it's 5 products, and it's about $20 off, free shipping, and that includes the Allison Med, the Power C, Nutridyne, Silver 100, and Nutridefense. Bill, that's a nice arsenal there, isn't it?
It is really, and of course it's going to kill all known pathogens. And I'm just going to summarize because I was on the Rents Network. I'm a guest every Thursday night, hour 2.
Are you?
And
I
yesterday,
never noticed that.
Yes.
Last night we barely made it. Yeah,
we made it. We still make it, though. Anyway,
at 8.
The first hour yesterday was...
Every Thursday night at 8, pardon.
Yeah, the first hour yesterday was open lines, but nobody called in. But I really wanted to talk about Ebola because I'm getting a zillion emails and calls. I want to clarify. Firstly, Ebola is not that easy to spread. But the people in Africa, number one, don't know how to prepare or bury the dead. Mm-hmm. The doctors don't have adequate equipment to protect themselves, and people are just sloppy. Mm-hmm. If you have a proper reverse protection unit, let's say at any major institution, where the doctors are infectious disease experts and they have proper gowns and gloves and have tons of equipment and UV lights and ozone generators, and
what you're saying is there's no need for it to spread.
There's no need to panic, but there is, in a sense, because of the poor public health measures, it's going to cause a crisis.
Where is it? Is it here yet?
Yes. There's at least 8 cases that have arrived in the United States, 3 most recently. Major universities like Emory, I saw some pictures, and of course the way that they're transferring the person on a gurney within 5 feet of a person, this is actual on photos, that actually had no facial mask protection, no full body protection.
Where was this?
This was at Emory University in Atlanta just a day ago.
In Georgia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now what happened is that also there was a priest arrived with 2 people bringing him, and they're in full body protection, head to toe, because if he's coughing, sneezing, blood or mucus, he is going to spread virus.
Right.
The danger with this one is that it's the patent for Ebola is held by the U.S. Defense Department, which means it's a bioweapon. Mm-hmm. It's been around since the 70s when they had a big surge back then. And the virus now, the people locally in Africa are frightened, so they're not going to the local hospitals, so it's spreading like wildfire. They live closely together. They often prepare meals together. And, of course, they don't know how to take care of their dead and don't have enough equipment. So it's likely to be devastating in sub-Saharan Africa.
Well, I have a question for you. How are those products going to protect someone? Should they start taking them now, or should they wait until
everybody should be taking a low dosage of all of them now. And I recommend, like Nutrimedical, taking at least 10 drops twice a day, Allison Med 1 capsule twice a day, and Silver 100 at least 1 spray or 3 drops for every 20 pounds body weight.
And for all you people out there that wondering what I'm taking, I do take 1 Max, because you can substitute the Allison Med for Max. I take a Power C, Nutridyne, a Silver 100, and 1 Nutridefense.
Now, if you're going to travel on an airline or a bus or anything,
then I just stop.
Then you start bumping up your dosage. Yeah. And you'd also probably order the NIH N95 mask and the defense wipes. The danger comes where the incubation period is 21 days. My recommendations are, if anybody in origin of a country in Africa that has Ebola arrives in America or any Western nation, they should be quarantined for a month, and serum being drawn every week. The company called ZMAP, making ZMAP down in San Diego, which is grown as sera against the Ebola.
Yeah, that's genetically engineered, isn't it? Down in
that's right, and the company is actually growing it in Kentucky in tobacco, genetically engineered. When they have no idea. This company
here is the only one in America that's.
But they're only making 100 doses. They're going to ramp up to 100 doses, so they're not going to have enough for anybody, even if it worked and they don't know. It's all experimental.
Yeah,
There's going to be trials.
I wouldn't want to take it.
The fact is that our antipathogenics will kill all known viruses, bacteria, etc., and our even defense wipes will kill all capsulated viruses. So if you take our simple measures and you travel with a mask, and you travel taking the antipathogenics, you're fine. The problem is people aren't going to be because they don't have HEPA filters in the aircraft. They don't have a chain of custody sent off to a CDC lab. So even resistant TB. So if a kid from Mexico or Central America gets on a plane with multi-drug, it's called XMDR TB, they can cough in the back of the plane in 2 minutes. It blows in your face, and you could get tuberculosis, and it's multi-drug resistant.
I think they'd have a filtering system on.
They had until the early mid 80s, and for some reason or other, the FAA allowed them to pull all the filters from the international aircraft. And after America pulled them, the other nations did. I don't know if there's some in the Far East that still have them, but they should be putting them in a chain of custody off to a CDC certified lab, and then tracking everybody that is not quarantined. By phone call, and then checking on them and drawing sera and doing other things to find out if they're infected.
Enough Ebola, enough. Gosh, you're over.
Yeah, it's going to be a problem.
Overdo it. I want to talk about something fun. Okay,
fun
that's
stuff.
enough.
Unfun
enough
stuff.
Is enough.
We'll get into unfun stuff in hour 2 and 3.
About my favorite daughter-in-law to be, Amanda.
Oh yes.
That's our Matthews, our oldest son, that's studying natural medicine up there in Portland, Oregon. That is his fiancée, and they are coming to visit in just a couple of weeks, and I'm so excited. But she also works for Nutrimedical, and she's got an announcement to make that I'm going to make for her. And Bill, that's the Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah.
On the front page now.
Yes, we have a front page link to the Facebook and Twitter pages, so we have those there.
And Amanda's taking care of it. If you need anything, I guess you just go in there and she'll
and we'll be doing. I'll be doing little mini interviews that we'll do up on our live stream channel. We'll actually post it up on Facebook and Twitter, so we can kind of delve into kind of like the man on the street kind of questions about different products. And
now, I'd like to bring up Jess is one of our customers from GTA. He always says that's the Greater Toronto area.
Uh-huh.
And he would like to have some kind of a forum where Nutrimedical customers, listeners get together. And I thought maybe Amanda would be able to figure that out for us. Some kind of a place where you can connect with people, find out who else in their area is a customer or a listener with Nutrimedical, and become a community like that. I think that was a great idea, Jess. So we're going to do it. He also gave me a joke that was way too long and too Canadian. I can't get it on there.
Well, Canadian jokes are good, which is why
Canadian. I told him to email it.
Canadian comedians are some of the best in the world. You have to have a sense of humor because they discovered years ago that it's better than antifreeze to have a good sense of humor in Canada.
Yeah. Because it's a wee bit cold up there.
Yeah. It prevents you from freezing if you laugh.
Next, Bill, is Ken. Ken from Georgia, who's now in Omaha, Nebraska. You know what he said? You know his mom. I was talking about his mom. She's 93 years old. She just had her 93rd birthday, August 29th.
Guarantee she's not on multi.
29.
She's not getting
August the 2nd.
I guarantee she's not
he's going to say I'm wrong again.
I guess she's not. I'll bet she's not on multiple drugs.
No, she is not. But guess what? She spent her 93rd birthday with Ken in Omaha, not Idaho, and they went to the movie Get On Up, James Brown. And it was great, and she's just feisty as ever. Isn't that wonderful?
That's really good.
Yeah, and anyways, Ken always has a question.
That's in theaters now, by the way.
Go ask the question that I want you to ask Michelle, or he'll call me Monday and say, you didn't ask the question. He does that,
Yeah.
So he's listening right now. Ask that question. He wants to. The question is about lactose intolerance with the beautiful black lady that she came direct from Africa, and I guess apparently people from Africa can't tolerate lactose.
98% of the population of the world can't tolerate lactose.
Oh.
If you take gastrozyme, it has a form of enzyme that can tolerate it right at the stomach, right locally when you have the right pH. But we have the only neutral pH lactase enzyme in the world called lactose blocker.
Yes.
So you need both. You need the gastrozyme and you need lactose blocker. If you take those and you have minimal amounts, I try to tell people to avoid lactose anyway. The milk substitute I recommend here in California is called Khalifa, which is toasted almond and coconut milk.
You love that.
It's better than regular milk.
His question quickly, can you get rid of it, lactose intolerance, or do you always have to take a...
You always have it. It's a genetic thing. Some people are inducible. Okay. If you're from Denmark or Sweden, you have a much higher chance of having the we call the infantile enzymes.
Okay.
So you can break down milk sugar.
We shall return in a couple minutes.
Denmark. We're back with the firing line, firing questions, and hopefully giving answers to the pathway to wellness and a little more wisdom to kind of make your day better.
I want to mention Dorothy. Hey, Dorothy over in Illinois. She's been a customer of Nutrimedical for years, and she was decided that she takes the ageless, the life support, and the glycemics, and she thought she'd just leave out the glycemics and see how it worked for her, where she has hypoglycemia, low blood sugar attacks. And she wanted me to say on the air today, I almost forgot you, Dorothy, sorry, that after 2 weeks of just not having...
Not taking the glycemics.
She got some bad reactions.
Right.
So
well, the glycemics will stabilize the blood sugar. And
it does, yeah.
See, what happens with hypoglycemia, it is, in a sense, an alternative form of hyperinsulinemia, where you get basically elevated insulin, and your resistance drops abruptly. All of a sudden, now you have nothing to hold your blood sugar from crashing to the floor. And a person that becomes hyperinsulinemic slowly, they may just put on weight, and they're not hyperglycemic yet. Their blood sugar's not high.
And
they're not diabetic.
What does the glycemics do?
The glycemics stabilizes your blood sugar. It has carbo block that blocks the release of carbohydrates and sugar, so you don't get a big surge of insulin, which will bring you up and then down. It has enzymes for digestion, probiotics. It's got the special factors to lower blood insulin resistance in the tissues, so it reverses, because some people will flip from hypoglycemia to turn into frank diabetic, or just have abnormal lipid levels, or they may just stay hypoglycemic their whole life. And so each person is a little different.
Do we have time for a quick joke from Eileen from beautiful Rhode Island? Beautiful but tiny. This is really quick, but this is kind of cute. The teacher wrote on the blackboard, "I ain't had no fun all summer. Now, Paul," she said, "what shall I do to correct this? Get a boyfriend." Paul replied. That's cute. She said another one that's really too long. I know I don't have time for that today, but I do have time to say that the curcumin cream, you didn't laugh at that, did you? You know what? For the listener's sake, you should fake it and at least do a little chuckle.
Well, actually, I didn't have time. I started too hot, and I didn't even get the H out before the joke was over.
Some of them you just kind of...
That was too quick. It's like, okay, go ahead.
Well, you told me to put the quick ones on.
That's good.
Anyways,
I can laugh later.
How about me and my curcumin cream? You might remember I had, from so much shopping here a couple of years ago, my hand was killing me from an hour or two in one hand. Anyways, remember that a couple of years ago, and I put the curcumin cream on? Well, this time I bumped my right ring finger in the washer machine.
I think it's because you type really hard like a lumberjack. I guess you hit the keys like a lumberjack.
You mean my typewriter's in the washer machine?
No, you type really hard.
What's that got to do with me bumping my finger in the washer machine? Well, you bumped
it too, but you type hard.
Anyways, I put the curcumin cream on my finger. My gosh, that stuff is a miracle.
It is. And also with your knee joints anywhere.
And the pain goes. And then the swelling goes down. It's just amazing stuff. And we don't talk about it very much.
It's good. Well, let me run through the causes. It's good for joint swelling. It's good for skin lesions like psoriasis or eczema. It's good for sunburn, tearing it off. It's good for tendinitis like carpal tunnel syndrome. It's good for a whole pile of things because it doesn't just sit on the skin. It'll penetrate deep into tissue.
Yeah. Rather than taking a pill, you put it right on your skin. I think it's
if you got pruritus, like itching, all kinds of things. Really good.
Okay. Now, no more jokes for Bill. Let's go to Melanie from Connecticut. And she goes, Dr. Deagle. She goes on to say how she's left a message for you. And anyways, I am running afternoon and evening low-grade fevers 99.8 to 101 with swelling and pain in my left ankle, left and right bone below the knees, and then blah, blah, blah. This started in April when I was on IV antibiotics for diverticulosis attack.
Right.
They're back and worse. I had a colonoscopy on July the 1st with findings of a narrowing in the colon through which a child's instrument had to be used.
Right.
I have had discomfort since. And she goes on to about Lyme. Why is she asking about Lyme disease? But that's not related to.
Well, I'll give you an answer in a second. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. The first thing is the regular conventional doctors, and we're talking about family doctors, internal medicine surgeons, etc., have incredibly inadequate training in infectious disease. The infectious disease guys that are kind of more PhD type, they realize how ignorant we are and how many pathogens are probably growing in our body all the time. If you actually look for antibodies against cytomegalovirus and HHV6 and others, it's 73 to 75% of the population. To indicate they have had an infection or they have the post-infection immunoglobulin abnormalities like cytokines in their blood. If you look at diverticulosis, once you've got it, you've got it. Okay, what we got to do is keep your bowels sterile. And we have to prevent new diverticuli from forming, which is basically where the bowel wall is penetrated by a blood vessel, and you get an outpoaching of the inside lining of the bowel, and you end up with a fecal lith Fecalis means a stool stone, basically in Latin, and it forms non-digestible fiber, nuts, whatever, and it forms a fecalis, a nidus for infection of anaerobes and fungi and all kinds of nasty stuff. And if it gets inflamed enough, it can rupture through, and you can get what we call left-sided appendicitis, or a diverticular peritonitis can kill you. It's a big deal. And for what we use is colon cleanse. We use probiotics, living probiotic ultra. I clobber it with Allicin Med, Nutridyne, and Silver 100. You've got to use Ageless to heal the gut wall, which is really important. And we have to normalize the bowel motility, and then where we use IBS care, which is, and CoQ10. The CoQ10 ubiquinol and the IBS care will normalize the peristaltic patterns in the bowel, and you want to keep it clean. I recommend don't ever have, in this kind of person, don't have nuts or bran, but have, the non-digestible fiber that's in glycemics is excellent for keeping your bowel clean. So I recommend at least a scoop twice a day of glycemics. But it's a big deal, and when she thinks she might have Lyme disease, there are Lyme tests you can do. But Lyme-like parasites are very common, especially in this area of the country where she is. I think she's up in Connecticut.
Yeah, she is.
And the fact is that Lyme disease is exploding across the country. Lyme disease was actually a bioweapon that got off of Plum Island, New York. It's a Class 5 facility, which is only 1 or 2 in the world. And basically, when it got the deer across the strait from Long Island, New York to Connecticut, they carried it to Lyme, Connecticut, and that's where it was first diagnosed. So that's why it's called Lyme disease. It's actually after the place where it was found.
Okay.
So it's a spirochete. There's 34 different spirochete-like organisms in northern Europe and North America, and it's incredibly common. It's carried by the white-footed mouse and any biting insect. It can be ticks, fleas, whatever. Any biting insect can carry it. And people can also infect the biting insects. There's recent studies showing that people that have chronic Lyme can actually infect the insects in their area and bring it to a new territory in the country. So there's Lyme disease out in the West Coast as well now, or in other parts of the country, or Lyme-like parasites like ehrlichiosis. So unless you do the test, you have to assume everybody with migratory swollen joints has a chronic parasitosis, chronic viral infection, and chronic dysbiosis of the gut, so we want to use these antipathogenics to knock them off.
Bill? Next is Jonathan from Christchurch, New Zealand. Hello, Dr. Bill and Michelle. Would I be able to request some advice on obtaining a medical certificate claiming I am electrosensitive? I have, remember he had problems, I think, with meters down there and other stuff, right? I have contacted a doctor in the North Island of New Zealand at an environmental health care clinic and asking if there's anyone there, that could help him with the EMF exposure sensitivity. There's no one. So he said, do you know anyone who could put me in contact with someone?
Sure. Go to aaemonline.com. .org, that is, the American Academy of AAEMonline.org, which is the American Academy of Environmental Medicine. Their blood and genetic tests. The QRMA will tell you if you're electrosensitive, the quantitative resonant magnetic analysis machine. Mm-hmm. And there's specific organic acids that show up in people that are electrosensitive, and I can tell them which ones to do through labtestingdirect.com.
Okay.
Welcome back, and I'll be doing a major update on Ebola with some more literature. New releases here later in hour 2 and 3. Michelle, you got more questions?
Bill.
Let's roll.
Kind of on the same subject here with the smart meters, Eleanor from Elliott Lake in Ontario, Canada, writes, thanks to First Nations activist Jennifer Sun for this item, and that is that the Saskatchewan Power ordered to remove all 105,000 smart meters.
Right, and that's the reason because 12 of them actually went on fire, they actually went on fire. They're not being UL certified. They put electricity back down the line, so if there's a rupture of a gas line, they can cause a gas line explosion.
So it's only about fires? It's not about the...
No, they do everything.
Electromagnetics.
The electromagnetics actually degrade water lines and power lines.
Yeah, but when they said they were taking it down, was it just because of the fire thing, or was it because they also realized that there was...
Fire hazard. Just fire, right? They're not dealing with a non-thermal injury to the cells, but it also creates dirty electricity that degrades water lines, power lines, and gas lines. But the non-thermal effect on cells is very lethal. And in fact, the classified research, which I know about from the U.S. and Russia, since the Second World War, The specific harmonic frequencies generated by the smart meters are extremely toxic to cellular tissue. You can see micronuclei forming around tissue that's the same as radiation from ionizing radiation like Fukushima or Chernobyl.
So what was causing the fires?
The fires were basically caused by these switching mode power supplies causing what's called three things. Firstly, they put electricity back down the line so that you cause a power drift, and you can get spikes in power that can actually burn out circuits. And, of course, power transformers. The second thing it does is it can actually put electricity back down lines if there's a leak in gas, and you can get a gas explosion. And the third area is it actually degrades equipment. So everything from electronic equipment, televisions, because of the switching mode power supply, it actually generates transient surges that actually can burn out circuits, microcircuits, and other equipment.
Okay, next is Missy from Roseville, California. Dr. Deagle, I have a friend whose child, a 10-year-old, is hacking up phlegm a lot. He also throws up food, especially when he's had something sweet like chocolate with something greasy like chips. He just throws up and is fine. He's done this for as long as she can remember. Is there anything they can do to help him? Thanks, Missy. And she also says, P.S. I'm currently drinking your Calm Mind cherry powder. See, that's how powder. That's how you deal with all your kids. You drink the Calm Mind. It's wonderful, and thanks for creating it.
The first thing to think of is that he needs to see a pediatric gastroenterologist because he may have abnormal peristalsis of his esophagus. He could be getting gastroesophageal reflux, which is more common than you think in children and even in babies, and it can actually be dangerous to the lungs if they're aspirating and getting lung effects. What you want to first assume is that there's something significantly wrong with his upper esophagus if he's been vomiting like this for a long period of time. And it could be anatomical, so you want to make sure you get a gastroenterologist to scope him and do what's called an esophagram, where they actually look in the esophagus. You may well have a parasite or an organism like Helicobacter pylori or dysbiosis, but you have to first look in children for anatomical problems or reflux or abnormal sphincter tone of the GE sphincter, gastroesophageal sphincter, so he's not getting problems like that. So that's important. And of course, the other thing that could happen is he'd be having sinus problems or something else that's going on, like a chronic sinus infection.
So get him checked out. There's nothing you'd want to just give him to...
I would say, first off, GastroHeal would be very helpful. He can chew on the tablet every 4 times a day to help his esophagus. I would get him a wedge to raise the head of his bed up in case he's getting acid reflux, which you suspect that he's got some GE reflux just on the basis of what he has so far in his history. But I have him, and then as soon as you get the data from the pediatric gastroenterologist, send it to me, and I can give you some ideas on what else. Functional tests, you might do
and what natural things we have to help.
Living probiotic would be very good to help his gut. Living probiotic is going to help to normalize his gut, because very commonly when you see kids with abnormal peristalsis and vomiting, they've got a gut dysbiosis. And so that living is very simple. You can, if he's young, you can open the capsule and put it in his food.
Next is Shirley in an email. How many questions did I get done today?
Well, you can ask me. These are unusual questions, though. So they require a little. They require an integration of advanced medical as well as the nutrition.
I'm trying to read this real quickly, though. I don't think I want to get through too many of these. I hate missing people's questions. I always miss some every week, but I try to get at least half of them in.
I'll fire back and have quick answers.
I assume you've heard about the spread of Ebola to Brazil, Morocco, and the Philippines from Liberian airline passengers. I'm writing to you because I read an article, and she goes on to say. She wants to know, she read an article that someone said nanosilver is the only silver to use for Ebola.
They're wrong. Nanosilver is still just chunks of silver. Unless it's in its ionic state, it has no biological effect. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to have silver in its ionic state, which is silver 100. It's hundreds to thousands of times stronger. So when somebody says nanosilver, it's a marketing ploy. And the most powerful antipathogenic we have is Nutridyne, then silver 100, Allicin Med, and I recommend the immunoglobulins, Immunomax, Nutriimmune, which is a capsule form or in ageless. And Power C Plus will stop the cytokine storm of Rocky Mountain spotted fever, flu, or Ebola, which is the thing that ultimately kills you, is the cytokine storm.
She goes on to say, God bless you, sir, and God bless us all. Let's see. Next is Aaron from Brentwood, California. Blessings. I'm a current user of Nutrimeds. I love your products. I have a question regarding my niece's 3-month-old baby boy, Titus. That's a sweet name, isn't it?
Yeah.
She is breastfeeding and will be for a full year, and she is very hesitant about the immunization schedule and how they cluster all the vaccines into 1 or 2 shots. What are the necessary immunizations he needs, and are there any safe ones? She is very concerned about all the controversy regarding autism, autoimmune diseases, and etc. And they're in Fort Lewis in Washington State.
Obviously, they're not listening to the program, because if they were listening, they'd understand. We've had interviews with Dr. Mayor Eisenstein. There is no such thing as a safe vaccine. The only one that I would recommend personally is the vaccine for tetanus, and you don't want to repeat it more often than every 20 years, because if you do, I've seen some very nasty reactions from repeating the tetanus shot because someone gets a wound. The fact is, all the vaccines contain heavy metals or chemical or other adjuvants that alter your immune system. When you stack vaccines, especially if someone's predisposed to microglial upregulation in their brain, which is the immune cells, you turn the fire on our free radicals forever, for years, and their brain goes on fire, and they stop myelinating nerve fiber tracts and damage various parts of their brain, so they develop autism, which is a disconnection of different parts of the brain, the cortex.
He goes on, Erin, she goes on to say, are there any Nutrimeds she could start him on at 3 months? Well, I know lots of babies that are taking just a drop of Nutridyne, Erin.
Well, what we do is that we give a recommendation of 180 milligrams, which is an Alamax, right? Twice a day for an adult as a prevention. So we give about 1/10 that dosage to a baby, which would be 1 or 2 drops twice a day. And then silver, I recommend 3 drops per 20 pounds body weight. So you can just put 3 drops from one spray in their mouth per 20 pounds body weight as a preventive for infections. But I'm not keen on the vaccines. I think that the vaccines are, firstly, they haven't proven vaccines will stop the primary infection. Secondly, they have adjuvants, especially when you stack them with aluminum, heavy metals, and toxic volatile solvents. Theoretically, they could make vaccines that would produce a near identical to a biological exposure with a anamnestic response that's both cellular and immune. But the vaccine companies haven't put the extra money into doing that, or the scientific rigor to make sure that they can validate those studies. So that's in animals and humans. So because they're using what we call out-of-date, 2 centuries out-of-date science, the vaccines cause problems. Just like when they created the tetanus, the vaccine in the Second World War against typhus, they actually created the swine flu in 1918. That's how it was created in America.
Next is J.O. Bill from East Sussex, the UK. Hopefully I'm saying his name right.
I think you did pretty good.
Oh, yeah, because we don't know any better. It's Joao. Anyways, I hear the music cutting in. I'll just briefly say it's about all the supplements that he's taking for his dental problem. Often people say, is it okay to take your supplements all together? Well,
yes.
I see you doing it.
Yeah, you can take them all together. I take them all together.
You can always take
only one you don't want to take
them.
together is Silver 100. You want to take it apart from all the other ones.
Okay.
Silver 100.
Your last.
Welcome back, and
that's good. Fix it later.
Yeah.
You were saying, Bill, the Silver 100 to take that separately.
Take it separately because it binds to protein and other things. It's the only one that you can take Nutridyne with anything, and Alamax. And I tell people, and although ZMAP, and again we're going to talk about this in more detail. Joel Skousen has some announcements on this about Ebola, but people need to realize, don't trust that Big Pharma has a cure for it. Start taking the antipathogenics now to protect yourself. And if you travel with them. You travel with our supplements in your body. Alamax, the Ebola protection kit, and also order the masks and the defense wipes. As long as you have them wet in a Ziploc bag, they will kill any contacts you have as well. So hand-to-mouth transfer.
Next is Oliver from Georgia. Dr. Deagle, last week you said to set up a time to call and you would talk to any one of your customers about your fix for type 2 diabetes. I wanted to do that, and I believe I could somehow get rid of my body fat. If I could, 90% of my problems would go away. Please let me know how to reach you. What you do there, Oliver, is just call in and leave your name and number with anyone on the 888-21288.
Yeah, and you can also send an email
finish
to...
it off.
888-212-8871.
You're supposed to finish it off. So you're really wound up today, aren't you? It must be the Ebola.
Well, that in there, the spicy.
You round up all the time.
Day. Well, anyway, I can tell you, firstly, for diabetes, the primary problem with type 1 diabetes is there's antibodies attacking the pancreas, but oftentimes when the pancreas comes back, you also develop insulin resistance, so you get type 1, type 2. Type 2 diabetes, which is 85 to 90% of cases, you want to reduce insulin resistance because they have 3 to 6 times the normal amount of insulin. And you start off with leptin metabolic, 1 to 2 capsules twice a day, diabetoline, 2 capsules twice a day, biotin plus 1 capsule twice a day, the Vitamin Max Minerals plus 1 twice a day, and chromium cruciferate. And very important with the leptin metabolic is LipoFlush, 2 soft gels twice a day. And I recommend a carbo block before every meal, 2 capsules before every meal, and glycemics to replace meals. It's really important because if you have a comprehensive program.
What's the core for?
The core 4 are glycemics, leptin metabolic, carbo block, and diabetoline.
Okay. Next is Larry in an email. What vitamins and supplements do you recommend for carpal tunnel? I heard you say earlier the curcumin cream.
Curcumin cream, number 1. Number 2, Inflamex. Number 3 would be Tendon Mender. And number 4 would be probably College Max.
Okay. Next is Michael from Texas. Would like to try some of your recommendations for treatment of swollen prostate. I am also a diabetic on Xarelto and metformin for diabetes, and 1 year ago was treated for PE and a spring, filter placed in the groin. Presently, I'm experiencing discomfort in the prostate area with swelling and fluid buildup in the testicles, not real large swelling in testicles, but some like the size of marbles, so he needs some help there. And he also said he can't call in because his hearing is poor. He's 70 years old.
Right, so the first thing you want to take the prostate flow, 2 soft gels twice a day, not 1 twice a day. Diabetic, you should be taking Vision Max, a capsule twice a day. I'd recommend he take the xenoestrogen detox and the hormone synergy to normalize his hormone levels. It should be detoxing with xenoestrogen detox and the Kelar Max to remove the heavy metals and chemicals from the prostate because it's a sink, it grabs the toxins. And because he's got vascular problems, I don't like Xarelto. It's a very dangerous drug. I'd recommend he switch off that to nattokinase and lumbrokinase. Xarelto has lots of side effects. And then
also that metformin.
And metformin also will cause lots of problems, including swelling of his prostate and other issues. Yeah, so metformin is something he should switch off. He'd be better off with for blood sugar control with our combination of diabetoline, biotin plus, leptin metabolic, Nutritrala, which is an anti-inflammatory, and a LipoFlush, and that'll help to start getting his blood sugar and diabetes under control. The nattokinase will dissolve clots along with lumbrokinase much better than Xarelto, and there's no danger of massive bleeds with Xarelto, which you can get lots of other side effects if you scratch yourself or bump yourself, so your cuts won't heal. And metformin will cause spots in your vision. It'll cause circulatory issues in the brain, so you can have some memory or awareness issues. So you can have visual problems, you can have imbalance. And you can also get lactic acidosis, which can be very dangerous, causing muscle cramps and or a lactic acid crisis. So metformin is dangerous. Again, it's one of the least of the dangerous. The other drugs like glipizide and glycurides, etc., they can be even more dangerous. And I recommend that if you do a vigorous, what I call vitamin X, VX, or vibrational exercise, it'll help.
Next is Martin from Michigan. Hello, Dr. Bill. I've been having very high blood pressure and had swelling in my feet and lower legs. What would you recommend I do to beat this? I don't want to take drugs.
But whenever you see swelling in your feet and legs, you have high blood pressure, it means you're getting right-sided heart failure. The most common cause is obstructive sleep apnea, so you need an overnight oximetry test with your doctor. And then you get CPAP. You probably need to have edema and weight loss, so you should be on natural diuretics. Our best natural diuretic, believe it or not, is the Power C+. 3 to 6 capsules, 2 to 3 times a day, along with 1 full vitamin K2 for every 3. And then we start doing things to improve the heart contractility with CoQ10, at least 2 soft gels twice a day, CoQ10 ubiquinol 3 twice a day, IBS care, and of course the mitochondrial catalyst, mitocarnitine, and uridine. And those will increase the heart contractility And then as the heart contracts better, your edema will disappear, and but you'll need to have exercise, and I recommend vibrational exercises, non-traumatic, easier than even walking on a treadmill initially. You can add that later. But get a VibraSlim or a VibraCore machine, and a VibraCore probably 3,000, and that'll really get you going.
Next is Mike from Fort McMurray, Alberta.
By the way, what they probably should have, as I mentioned, is a degree of right-sided heart failure along with hypertension. Once you start getting the nitric oxide with Cardivite and Supernox, the arteries will open up, and you won't have the pulmonary hypertension that's causing the edema.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, somewhat.
Next is, where am I?
We're trying to get through
Mike. Mike from Fort McMurray.
We got 3 minutes. We can pack a lot in 3 minutes. We can get a lot in 3 minutes. Come on now. How fast can you read?
I got to get you to do the Cole's Notes version here.
Well, they're complex problems. These are not simple problems.
McMurray, I know, and I'm sure they appreciate it. Mike from Fort McMurray, Alberta.
Uh-huh.
I just want to get these questions. And this one here, he said he just started the protocol, Bill, for diabetic retinopathy.
Right.
And he wants to know, when can he expect to notice any positive changes in his right eye? And also, is there a major difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes? When you talk about diabetes on your radio show, could you please distinguish between the two?
Type 1 is where your body develops antibodies against the beta cells that generate insulin.
Mm-hmm.
Type 2 is where you get insulin resistance and you get fat globules in your muscles because you're inadequately oxidizing fatty acids, and the GLUT4 transporter gets jammed up because of signaling, because serine and so on, and it's jammed.
Okay.
So you often get a combination. So you get type 1, and then as the pancreas comes back, you get some type 2 resistance as well.
Mm-hmm. So
it's very common to get a mixture. What I recommend in terms of retinopathy, we can't say how long it'll take because we don't know what his disease state is. Baseline, you do a what's called a retinal photographs with fluorescein with a retinologist. You get a Goldman field test to get a baseline.
You just got the protocol.
And one of the best things is thing to do is, I'm talking about baseline.
But he wants to know, like, generally.
Generally, the best way to tell if your eye's getting better is get a red dot and put it on a tongue depressor or a spoon, mm-hmm. and check to see if your color visual field is expanding.
Good.
If your color visual field's expanding, it means your retina's healing even before you notice the difference. Because you may not notice that your color field, because your black and white field is usually not affected in diabetics until quite late. It's the color field that expands.
Next is Sandra Bill from Texas. Dr. Deagle, in May 2014, a VA dentist soaked my set of plastic partials in clavicide for over 20 minutes and then rinsed it off briefly and put them in my mouth. 6 hours later, my mouth, throat, and stomach were on fire. I called poison control, and they said clavicide has a pH of 12 to 14, and I had a chemical burn, and to drink ice water. And I drank water for 3 days.
Right.
And, I'm going to
what an alkali burn basically was what happened.
Wow. That's so. Do you have any Nutrimedicals for my kidney?
Yes, I do.
We're running out of time here.
Yes, I do. I got that email. I got that email this morning. I'll give you a quick answer. Yes, we have nutraceuticals to help restore the kidney function and restore burns from alkali in the mouth and upper esophagus. Start off with GastroHeal. Mm-hmm. Recolonize with living probiotic. And then for the kidneys, we use things like Vein Away.
You know what, Sandra? Bill's going to send you an email. I have to say goodbye. He's got to stop talking now. Have a great weekend.
Well, temporarily.
God bless you. We'll see you next week. And Pat, what are you going to do next hour, Bill?
We're going to continue, and I'm going to continue talking. Although hopefully I will be able to give complete answers.
You talking? No, never.